like to win.
And drifts back, Survey, pressure. He's going to throw back against his body. Jeff Simmons! Jeff Simmons! It's a Titans touchdown.
Tighten up.
Let's get it, Chad.
He got a touchdown.
Tighten up, Chad. Stop playing, Chad. Tighten up, man.
Oh, welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible Live, MCA Live, Tighten Up Chat. How's it going? We are presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. Justin, the Titans come out hot. They take their first double-digit lead into halftime since week 1 of last year, and then in the fourth quarter, both the offense and the defense kind of collapse. How's it going, my friend? Fun game, but ultimately Titans come up short. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Fun game, as you said. A bit of a mixed bag. It felt, I think chaotic is probably the best word I would use to describe this game. I mean, Cam Ward goes over 40 passing attempts. The second half was full of just craziness, both on offense and defense. 2 rookie quarterbacks who were slinging the ball around pretty good in this one. I have to say, I don't think this is the worst case scenario for the Titans. Like, Cam Ward played pretty good, reasonably well. I mean, again, a bit of a mixed bag where he did a bunch of outrageous things, but it's probably at least 5 to 10 plays he'd like to have back as well. Just one of those games where you feel good coming out of it about the quarterback, but you lose the game, and maybe that protects, the pick if that's what you're into.
Yeah, final score, Saints 34, Titans 26. Titans had 2 drives at the end of the game, chances to go down, and one of them, I guess they would have needed a field goal to go take the lead, and then on the next one, they would have needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion just to tie the game. Cam Ward finishes 21 of 40 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did take 4 sacks and 88.6 passer rating. Also had 2 scrambles for 10 yards. So 261 total yards is a pretty good output. We kind of predicted that he would need to because the Saints offense has been so much more alive than some of the opponents the Titans face, with the Chiefs' third-string quarterback last week, or the Browns, who made a big push in the fourth quarter but didn't do much on offense ahead of that. So we were kind of right there in predicting the game script. I didn't necessarily expect the Titans to jump out to a 10-point lead, though, and then give it all up and then need that game script where Cam Ward's throwing the ball all over the field. But, I texted you a screenshot right before halftime. I think there was maybe they still had 1 drive before halftime of Cam Ward's numbers when he was 8 of 12 for 134 yards and a touchdown, with an 11.2 average yards per attempt and a 131.9 QB rating, passer rating at that point in the game. And I do feel like if the game script had stayed more in the Titans' favor, we wouldn't be staring at a 21 for 40 completions for attempts. That completion percentage just a tick over 50%. Not very good. But in the fourth quarter, it was a ton of throwaways. And if it wasn't a throwaway, it was a down the field semi-throw, basically a throwaway, just taking a chance. Maybe you get a flag or something, but nobody open deep. Or it was just a super tight window throw. And I think, to your point about Cam Ward making some outrageous plays, this feels like maybe this is recency bias, maybe the biggest range of Cam Ward plays.
Yeah.
On the high-end spectrum where he's making incredible down-the-field throws or incredible moves in the pocket. We'll definitely talk about the 4th down conversion that his knee ended up being down and therefore did not count. From that on the high end, the deep pass to DK that wasn't caught because of pass interference, but would have been like a 45-yard bomb that could have put him over 300 yards if it was a 49-yard or more play there. That would have put him over 300 yards if that is a catch instead of a pass interference. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Chase Young taking the ball out of Cam Ward's hands and, running it all the way to the end zone for a Saints touchdown. You had, I think, 2 or 3, I want to say, dropped interceptions or almost interceptions. Not necessarily drops, but defender has a really good chance to catch the ball and take it away and just can't come up with it. So I would say, there was a lot of negative when he was pressing, especially trying to go get a field goal or then go get 8 points. A lot of pressing led to some mistakes, but also we saw an incredible play that unfortunately didn't count in that sequence as well. So huge outcome, huge range of performance from Cam in this game. Ultimately, the Titans come up short.
Yeah, I think that actually hits the nail on the head, and I don't think that's recency bias at all. I mean, there were some moves in the pocket that were just outrageous. The buying time, the rolling to his right, moving up, moving backwards, and complete like the one to Alec Iomanner there on the 4th down that I believe the one that did count.
Yeah.
When he moves up in the pocket, kind of just in between like 3 Saints defenders. Great job by Alec Iomanner using his body to shield it at the catch point. Like, that was ridiculous. The one that didn't count to Tajay Spears, as you said, because the knee was down. I mean, that was just a ridiculous football effort and play by him. The one to Mason Kinsey where he's rolling to his right, buys time, and just pin precision ball placement on that one. Incredibly precise ball placement. And on the topic of deep ball accuracy, by the way, I do want to point out that he was pretty accurate on the deep ball today. I mean, you've got that one that I just mentioned to Mason Kinsey. You had one early to Chimere DK that gained what? I think it was 38 yards. You had one to Van Jefferson for 27. That was really nice down the right sideline. And the one that you mentioned as well to DK, that was probably the best one that didn't count because, I mean, it was pass interference, right? But you made the point I was going to make. He goes over 300 passing yards for the first time. Definitely, if he gets that one to DK and the 4th down to Tajay Spears, those two would have brought him over 300 passing yards. Unfortunate we didn't get that. But the range of outcomes, I mean, Alontae Taylor definitely dropped an interception. The one that actually hit the ground that went through his hands. It was a little high, but it kind of went through his hands. And then there was the one that the Saints player actually made, but was at the sideline. Now, I think he got one foot in, but not the second. I mean, those two for sure you would call quote-unquote dropped interceptions, if you will. And then there were a couple others where Saints defenders had good chances on the ball, and they didn't come down with it. I want to talk about the strip sack, obviously.
Yeah.
That's one that's maybe not fully on him, but at the end of the day, the quarterback's responsible for protecting the ball when it's in his hands, right? So I think it's kind of fair to see both sides to that. I actually thought a lot of people will probably blame Dan Moore for that one because Chase Young was his man, and Chase Young ends up with the strip sack. I thought J.C. Latham, I mean, maybe I got to see the all-22, but I thought J.C. Latham was most at fault for that play because, I mean, great rep by Carl Granderson with the spin move, but it's that initial pressure that J.C. Latham gives up that Cam Ward's got to avoid Carl Granderson, which takes Cam Ward into Chase Young's flight path. If J.C. Latham wins that rep, again, maybe I have to see it again. I'm curious to get your thoughts. But I think Dan Moore is doing a pretty decent job running Chase Young up the arc and maybe out of the play a little bit. But to me, it's the fact that Ward's got to avoid Granderson that kind of takes Ward into Young's flight path. So, and an underrated aspect of that play is the Titans had a really positive gain on the previous play, but it was a J.C. Latham hold that put their backs against the wall. I think that made it 2nd and 15. And then Latham is the first one to lose his in pass protection on the strip sack. So not a great sequence for J.C. Latham on back-to-back plays. And one more, a play that I thought was a bit underratedly negative, if you will, was the one where he's buying time on the right side. I think it was in the first half. It was early on the right sideline. And he gets a little greedy with how much time he thinks he could buy. And he ends up throwing the ball off Kevin Zeitler's helmet. I thought he was pretty lucky to avoid maybe even a strip sack on that play. I thought that one had to go out of bounds earlier, but it doesn't. And it could have been a pick. It could have been a fumble. Could have been intentional grounding if it doesn't go off Zeitler's helmet. Incomplete. So, I think to go back to it, a really good description that this was probably the widest range of outcomes. Like his knob was turned up to 11 on the off-script creation, and multiple times he did ridiculous things. But I think he probably also missed. Like if you want to count misses as negative plays, there was more than 5. It was probably between 7 and 10 negative plays, if you will.
Yeah, I kind of can't wait to watch the All-22 on this one tomorrow morning, but we'll get into that. We'll probably do. Why not? We're going to do a film breakdown on that tomorrow.
Yes.
So come back to the channel, make sure you're subscribed, like this video, like this stream, folks, help us out. Stay after the stream's over to comment on the actual video, but while you're here, leave some stuff in the chat. I want to get to a couple chat questions, Justin, but I also want to have a conversation. Did Tyler Shough outplay Cam Ward? Because I think that's the context around it is interesting. So we'll do that in just a second, but first, let's throw up this comment from Beard Zerker 10. Buckeye wide receivers have killed us in 3 games this year. Maybe the Titans finally get it right and take one. So that leads me to my point about where the Titans are at in the draft order now. After this loss, after the Browns win, the Titans are back to number 4 overall. Is 4 overall too high to take Carnell Tate? Maybe, but maybe not. I don't know. What do you think, Justin?
I really like Carnell Tate. I'm a big fan. I do think 4 is probably a little high. For him, I think quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2. And then after that, I think Arvell Reese is probably still the first pass rusher off the board in that top 4 5. What happens with Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love? They're the 2 best players in the draft, period. So you've got some wrenches thrown in there. So no, I don't think you're going Carnell Tate at 4. I'll also say this, this wide receiver class, I don't think anything is set in stone. I really don't. Jordan Tyson is really, really good out of Arizona State. Out of Arizona, excuse me. No, I had it right the first time. Out of Arizona State. He's missed so many games with injury throughout his college career. But when you watch him when he's healthy, I do think he's the best wide receiver, pure wide receiver. But the injuries throw a huge wrench into that evaluation. And then I know you do too. I really like Mekhi Lemon out of USC. I think all 3 of those guys are still in conversation for who's the best wide receiver in this draft. And I think Carnell Tate's probably the safest because he's got the bigger frame than Mekhi Lemon. I think Mekhi Lemon's probably going to be a slot, in my opinion. So that might hurt his evaluation a little bit. And then when you compare Tate to Tyson, he doesn't have the injury history that Tyson has. So I think Tate's the safest quarterback of the 3, and that probably means
quarterback?
Sorry, I think Tate's the safest wide receiver. We're live, folks. I think Tate's the safest wide receiver out of the 3. So that probably still has him at my wide receiver 1. I'm glad that Beard Zerker 10 put up this comment on here because I'll say this. This game reinforced a couple of the Titans' weaknesses, and I think we'll get into the secondary at some point because we will talk about the defense. But how many times in this game, I noticed it more early than late. Maybe that's a weird thing to say, but there were so many times where I felt Cam Ward had 5 seconds in the pocket and didn't throw it. And I'm pretty sure the All-22 is going to show that that's not a Cam Ward problem. That's a nobody's creating separation problem. So for me, as special as Cam Ward was at times, when you look at some of the negatives, how many times he had to throw it away, how many times maybe he had to hold on to it and wasn't able to create something, I think the need for a number 1 receiver was incredibly evident in this game. And to me, the comment here from Kendall the Yapper, this is a draft where you pick early, then trade up to get a wide receiver later. I mean, perhaps. Certainly, you know that you're going to need one. And this one as well from Kendall, it's got to be an offensive player no matter what. So many instances in this game, I thought it was painfully obvious how badly the Titans need a true number 1 receiver.
Well, to that point, this is a comment I started from a few minutes ago. At John H24, Justin's, why the hell are we still seeing James Prochet and Mason Kinsey? Where's Restrepo? It's a fine question. Obviously, Kinsey had a huge play in this game, but Van Jefferson in the first half, who, by the way, is 1 catch shy of getting a big incentive bonus. He needs 1 more catch this season. Hopefully he plays next week to get him paid.
He got a forearm injury. He left with an injury and was ruled out quickly, so not a great sign, but I'd love to see him get that incentive.
Yeah, so maybe they'll give it to us. Sometimes teams do that anyway. They just give it to them. But in this regime, especially the coaching staff, if they can make it happen. But they might be like, on our way out the door, here's a gift. But he gets hurt early, and then so the receivers that are left are Aya Manor, DK, and then it's Kinsey and Prochet. That's all you have on the active roster. Xavier Restrepo was not elevated off the practice squad for this game. If these guys can't play next week, he probably will be, and why not? Give him a Week 18 chance to put something on tape for the next staff. But that's why you're seeing so much of them, is because you're down a guy, and then DK takes a big hit late in the game on that last drive and has to miss a couple of plays. I do think he came back, though. But that's why Mason Kinsey runs into the game on like a third down with 45 seconds left, and he's like, "Where am I supposed to line up? What am I doing? I wasn't supposed to be in the game right now." And so it to your point, it outlines the need for some high level playmakers on the outside, but it also shows you it's also because of injury here, and obviously Calvin Ridley's been out for how long. That also highlights their need for a big time playmaker. And I'll also say, we haven't said this much this year, Justin, but on the subject of playmakers, Chig Okonkwo had an incredible catch and run touchdown. It was the first time this entire season. Cam Ward has 15 touchdown passes. This is the first one all year that was made by somebody else, right? There wasn't a Cam. I mean, I guess Chig's touchdown last week on the shovel pass wasn't necessarily Cam making a great play, but somebody catches the ball not close to the end zone, breaks some tackles, and makes a play to get all the way down and cross the goal line. That was the first time it's happened all year. So shout out to Chig Okonkwo, a great catch and run play, and getting in the end zone and getting that stat, getting another tick on Cam Ward's touchdown stat sheet. We love to see that, just for the sake of narratives and media bias and all that crap. But great play by Chig Okonkwo. We were texting during the game, and I asked you, like, should we talk about the Titans re-signing Chig Okonkwo? Is that something they should do, or are we? It doesn't. I mean, I guess it might depend on how much money he wants.
I'm pretty confident, and I've looked into it quite a bit. The tight end market, like, the high end guys that are making 17, 18, 19 million, and then there's a huge dip, and pretty much everyone else is making like between 10 to 12 million a year, 10 to 13. But some of those guys who are at like 12.7, like a Jake Ferguson, for example, I don't think Chig is going to be in that range, but you guys do have to ask yourselves, do you pay him 10 to 12 million a year? Because I'm incredibly confident that that's what he's going to get. It's going to be like a 3-year, $33 million contract, right? Something along those lines. I know this isn't the end-all be-all, but Spotrac, for example, they don't have a market value for him right now, but they do have one for Cade Otton, and they've got, who's also scheduled for free agency, and they've got Cade Otton at about 11.5, 12 million a year. You go look at their history of production, 4 seasons. Chig is like slightly outproduced them every single year. This is going to be an $11 to $12 million contract for Chig. And you look at the guys who are below that, like $9 million a year. It's like Dawson Knox. You know what I mean? And I think he's probably earned more than Dawson Knox. So they can afford it. They've got a ton of cap space. New Jersey Titans fan, 27.73. They've got a ton of cap space. So absolutely, an $11 million contract a year is not going to break the bank for the Titans, especially if you're looking at like a 3-year deal. They're probably going to be in pretty good cap positions for the next 3 years, right? Like, give or take. So by the time that deal expires, you don't give them a third contract. Maybe at that point you let them walk. But I'm kind of team, yes, you do re-sign him, even at that price, like a 3-year, $33 million. I just want people to realize that is what it's going to take. It's going to take 3 years, $33 million, give or take.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that kind of contract, honestly, for Chig Okonkwo, when you have a lot of cap space and he's a quarterback-friendly target. He's, Titans' leading receiver. Cam Ward clearly trusts going to him with the ball, and he makes plays. He's the only guy, like I said, all season to actually make a play with the ball in his hand. Curtis 077 says, really hope they go offensive coach. Now, look, Justin and I have been talking about this for weeks. I don't know that the best candidate to be a head coach in this cycle is an offensive-minded guy. Maybe it is. Maybe it's Clint Kubiak. Maybe it's Joe Brady. Maybe it's somebody from the college ranks that hasn't gotten any buzz. Steve Sarkisian got a little bit of buzz earlier in the offseason, but shut that down pretty quick himself. So we're going to talk about more coaching candidates this week. We actually are going to go, I would say, semi-deep on 4 guys this week. So tomorrow we're going to do our film breakdown. Tuesday we're going to look at 2 candidates. Wednesday we're going to look at 2 more candidates closely. The last couple of weeks we've done candidates that nobody's talking about, like Anthony Campanile. But this week we're going to look at some guys that have been talked about, but that Justin and I haven't had a chance to really go deep on. So we're going to do that this week. Spoiler alert, they are not offensive coaches. They're not. I don't know
if the 4, right? I don't know if any of the 4 are that we've got planned. Listen, the well's running a little bit dry on the offensive coaches, right? Like, it just is what it is. Everyone's wanted to hire them, so everyone has. So this is just one of those things where the pendulum swings back around. And look, there's going to be a couple of guys, like, does Mike McCarthy agree to come out of retirement? Then Mike McCarthy, not out of retirement, but you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't coaching in the league this year. It's Mike McCarthy, Matt Nagy, like, those two guys are offensive-minded candidates. Joe Brady would be an offensive-minded candidate. Clint Kubiak would be an offensive-minded candidate. So we'll see how many. But the defensive guys, the Chris Shulahs, the Jesse Minters, the Robert Salahs, the Anthony Campaniles, like, a lot of these guys who are going to be candidates this cycle are defensive-minded guys. It's just because everyone has wanted to hire offensive guys. There aren't an infinite amount of offensive-minded guys out there right now. So I do want to highlight this comment here. I actually really hope we get Anthony Campanile. He's coaching a hell of a season down there in Jacksonville. We had a great podcast on Wednesday about Anthony Campanile. If you didn't watch that one, it was a real deep dive into him. Go back into the feed and watch it. I also published an article on Anthony Campanile this morning, Sunday morning, on Titans Eyes. So if you haven't read it, if you haven't watched the pod, we had a lot of content on Anthony Campanile recently. So we'll see. And look, this is what we're here to educate the folks. Donnie says, never mind. I don't want to pay Chig that kind of money. I do think it's going to take, again, $10 to $12 million a year to re-sign Chig this coming offseason. Go ahead, Graver.
Yeah, SSSINNYJK. That's a hard one. Sorry, guys. Says, please go over potential OC hires for these head coach candidate reviews, too. Yeah, we have been. We've been throwing in a handful of potential OC connections.
Every single one. Every single episode we've done, we've actually thrown out potential OC candidates for every. We did it when we did a deep dive on Anthony Campanile on Wednesday. We did it when we did the deep dive on Anthony Weaver the week before. And we're going to be talking about it a lot this week when we highlight 4 candidates in particular. I've already got the short lists all written out and kind of figured out for you guys that we are going to talk about. So we will see what happens there. Graver, I think I want to talk, or do you want to address this comment?
Hang on, yeah. I wanted to finish up this convo real quick about, because there's a lot of fans out there who are worried that if the Titans hire a defensive-minded head coach, and then you get an OC candidate who's potentially a hot head coaching name themselves, like Matt Fleur was getting head coach interviews, even with the Titans, who hired him to be the OC that year, has a lackluster single season and gets poached. And Yanksy King, I'm just worried we'll lose the OC. There's another one here, Curtis. I just don't want to need to get a new OC every year. Like, that is a legitimate concern, but here's what I'll say to that. The Titans offense has been so bad for so many years now that, like, since Art Smith left, it's been a struggle watching this team play offense, that I will take one great year from a good offensive coordinator, even if it means you have to figure it out 365 days later and get a new guy. Like, at least you have that 1 year of greatness, and you can put stuff on tape that the new OC can take and put into the playbook, et cetera, et cetera. Shout out to Woodrin the Pootie 696 with a $5 super chat. I nearly dropped my newborn on some of those cam plays. I think Chig is worth it for the connection alone. Derrick Henry is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Tighten up. Shout out to Derrick Henry for keeping the Ravens season alive. Shout out to the Browns for keeping the Ravens season alive by beating the Steelers and setting up a winner-take-all AFC North matchup next week between the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. If the Ravens win that game, the Titans will have a fourth-round pick, an additional fourth-round pick in next year's draft, as opposed to an additional fifth-round pick because of the trade for Draymond Jones, who does have the requisite minimum 2 sacks since the trade went down. So shout out to those guys and Derrick Henry. Yeah, it kind of sucks watching Derrick Henry and Malik Willis go at it on Saturday night, knowing that they could have been Titans. But I'm much happier with Cam Ward, I think, than with, Malik Willis. It is what it is. Probably would have been a high-level backup for the Titans, but hey, he might get a job to compete for a starter next year. Okay, Justin, I want to talk Tyler Shough versus Cam Ward. I know you had something you wanted to talk. We still need to hit the defense. We're 24 minutes in, so let's start moving on that. I just wanted to point out the Saints defense, right? The last time this Saints defense gave up 26 or more points, which is what the Titans put up, all on offense again today, Justin, ethical points like I've been calling them, was November 2nd against the LA Rams. They held the Carolina Panthers to 7 points. They held the Atlanta Falcons to 24 points. They held the Miami Dolphins to 21 points. They held the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to 20 points, the Panthers to 17 points, and the Jets last week to 6 points. This is the most points the Saints defense has allowed in weeks, months even, multiple months, right? Well, almost multiple months. That's 7 weeks or so. This was a great outing by the Titans offense. It sucks that they couldn't really put more points on the board in the fourth quarter and like come back and tie this game late and put it in overtime and give Ward a chance. You know, Justin, when he was sitting on 251 passing yards, the Titans were at the 48-yard line. And I was looking at it and I was like, even if the Titans score a touchdown and tie the game here, he still will finish with 299. They need overtime to get him over 300. Of course, none of that happened. And he finished with 251 passing yards. But my point is, I want to talk about Tyler Shough versus Cam Ward. Did Shough outplay Ward? Did Ward outplay Shough? I think it's pretty obvious, and we can say this as unbiased Titans fans, that Tyler Shough did outplay Cam Ward. I mean, the guy had over 300 passing yards for the second week in a row. He threw 2 touchdowns, including the go-ahead eventual game-winning touchdown. Although the Audric Estime run pushed it to 8 points, it was the touchdown pass to a guy I had never heard of, Kevin Austin Jr., who caught the go-ahead score and gave the Saints a 1-point lead. Chris Olave, 8 catches, 119 yards, and a touchdown of his own. Tyler Shough played a great game. Only 5 incompletions on 27 pass attempts. Also scrambled a few times. Picked up some yards with his legs. Had a 7-yard run as his long of the day. Look, he played really well. He looked good. But I think there's context that needs to be applied. Cam Ward is playing against the Saints defense that, as I just said, hadn't given up 26 or more points since November 2nd. The Saints defense that we talked about on Thursday's show on Christmas Day has been a great... I can't read that. What does it say?
You would have heard of Kevin Austin Jr. if you followed my interviews during the pre-draft process.
That's the contact of Kevin Austin Jr.
I'm happy for the kid.
That's Justin showing his phone for the audio listeners of his in his phone, the contact for Kevin Austin Jr. Just showed everyone out there his phone number. Just kidding.
I didn't. I blocked it with my finger. I knew what I was doing.
But my point is, you got Cam Ward going up against a Saints defense that we talked about on Christmas Day as being a great team that's moved up into 9th overall in yards allowed, I think, 11th overall in EPA per play allowed. Brandon Staley coordinating a great unit back there with Mason Kinsey and James Prochet getting significant snaps in this game. And the other 2 guys who got significant snaps are Shimere Dike and Alec Iamaner, 4th-round rookies. Now, Alec Iamaner made some great catches in this game, especially over the middle on 3rd and 4th down. He also should have caught a touchdown that a drive the Titans ended up settling for a field goal. Now, it was broken up by the defensive back. I think it might have been Taylor or maybe it was Ringo. I can't remember who it was. Came over. This, if you don't remember the play, Cam Ward buys a little time, rolls to his left, and floats it to the back left corner of the end zone where Iamaner goes up to catch it. And if you watch the replay closely, defensive back comes in, doesn't even hit the ball, but swats Iamaner's arms away as the ball is arriving. You got to be stronger in that moment. You got to be stronger at the catch. And now, again, he made some great catches on 3rd and 4th down, contested catches, combat catches, but he could have had one more there that would have been huge. So my point is, if Cam Ward was playing against the Titans defense, who are starting multiple guys off the street, undrafted free agents, injuries everywhere in the secondary, one of the worst secondaries you've ever seen take the field, honestly, with the guys that they have out there, and they have Jalen Armour-Davis get hurt on the 2nd play of the game, that with Chris Olave, imagine if Cam Ward could have been the one with 333 passing yards. I think it's possible. You got Juwan Johnson putting up a career high 95 receiving yards in this game. So yes, Tyler Shough outplayed Cam Ward in this game. But I'd love to see Cam Ward with Kellen Moore as his head coach and Chris Olave on the outside against a secondary of banged up guys who just came off the street in the last week. That would be cool to see Cam Ward get to play against an opponent like that. I think if we did, then maybe he would have been the one outplaying Tyler Shough.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I'll probably expand just a little, but I think context matters a lot. The Saints secondary has some phenomenal football players, right? Alontae Taylor was so good in this game. He's really good every single week. He's a pending free agent. I just looked into this. He went to University of Tennessee. The Saints are currently scheduled to be $23 million over the cap. I do see the comment here. I'm not shocked by that. Jalen Armour-Davis has been on the injury report for the last several weeks with an Achilles injury. Remember you and I were speculating, what's going on? Is it torn? Why is he on the injury report? I didn't know you could have an Achilles injury that wasn't torn. Well, he plays through the injury, and now he tears it. I don't think that's I feel for the guy, because here's a guy who's probably trying to play to secure his NFL future. Like, there's no guaranteed he's in the NFL a year or two from now, right? Like, he's a bit of a draft bust, things of that nature. So he comes back from an Achilles injury. It's not a coincidence now he tears it. He's playing through a weakened Achilles due to injury, and he tears it. Like, it's just, I feel terrible for the guy. Back to what I was saying. Yeah. I do think context matters a lot in this foot. Like Alontae Taylor, as I was saying, Saints are scheduled to be $23 million over the cap. Mickey Loomis is a friggin' cap. Here's when Melo says, here's a guy. They're $23 million over the cap. GM Mickey Loomis is a cap wizard. I imagine they try to find a way to keep a guy like Alontae Taylor. But here's a guy I'd love to have in Tennessee if he does hit the market. I mean, the market for a corner, no doubt about it. But as I go back to what I was saying, the context of this, like you talked about the secondary, let's mention some names of who was in this secondary for the Titans today, because you talked about it not being great names. Okay, they had freaking Kendall Brooks started at safety. Keemon Hall started at nickel, who I love the guy, but as we learn, the more he plays, a missile downhill, but cannot cover, right? Like cannot cover. That's why he's a practice squatter, right? I think he got beat on 2 touchdowns. He got both touchdowns. Keemon Hall was in coverage. So Kendall Brooks at safety, Keemon Hall at nickel. And then after Jalen Armour-Davis goes down, they bring in Kyer Elam to play boundary corner opposite Darrell Baker Jr., who's their number 1 corner, who would not be a number 1 corner, obviously. I don't even know that he'd be a number 2 corner. Maybe 1 or 2 teams in the league, he'd be a number 2 corner, but not a lot of them, right? So this secondary is so pathetic. And again, like, I don't know if I'm being biased right now, but that context, you've never heard of him. John, we don't blame you. You've never heard of him. The context matters a lot. But I still feel comfortable saying, I think even in this game, like Cam Ward's ceiling was still very clearly higher than what Tyler Shough showed. No? Like, I think no doubt about it. The off-script magic. And I want to point out, Graver, because I thought this would be something you would point out, because you point this out on Twitter every week with other quarterbacks. Like, Tyler Shough was great in this game. On one possession, he had a wide open Chris Olave on the right sideline, and he just airmailed it out of bounds. And like 4 plays later, I think it was Chris Olave again on the left sideline. He airmailed it out of bounds. Quarterbacks miss throws. Tyler Shough missed throws in this game, but he gets to go up against that secondary of the Titans, who are just absolutely outrageous. A bunch of practice squatters, couple guys that probably won't even be in the NFL next season. And then again, you add the fact that he's got a real wide receiver 1 in Chris Olave. Night and day difference when it comes to the context.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Tyler Shough, look, there's a comment here about how he's a 26-year-old quarterback. And, in today's game where QBs play into their 40s, Shough can still play for a long time. My comment about Shough being 26 years old isn't that his career is going to be 2 or 3 or 4 years shorter. It's that he is basically fully developed, right? He's a 26-year-old guy who's played quarterback his whole life. And yeah, he went through a bunch of injuries, which is why he's so old. So he missed some development time rehabbing injuries. But Cam Ward is a guy who didn't know he wanted to play football. Here's a guy, I'm doing it too, Justin, is a guy who didn't know he wanted to play football as his full-time thing until like his sophomore year of high school, when he was a full-time basketball player. Started finally going to some of these camps, but not to develop and refine his game, to try to get noticed by colleges and get a scholarship offer. So Cam Ward has not been through the development pipeline that most of these quarterbacks have. So even for Cam Ward being a slightly older prospect at 23 years old already, doesn't make him close to the level of developed that Shough is. And at 26 years old, you're basically maxing out your athletic potential. Obviously, the mental side can still grow and develop, but the athletic potential that what you can be as a quarterback, Shough's kind of bumping up against it already. And that's not to say he can't get better than he is and get better with his mind than he is, but you also don't see the stuff that makes a player special, like you see with Cam Ward, like you saw on numerous, not even like once or twice, numerous plays in this game where Cam Ward does something that most quarterbacks, most human beings on this planet simply could never dream of doing. You can count the list of guys that can make the plays that Cam Ward was making today on one hand. And I'd throw like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes at his peak, which we may be past TBD on that. I don't know. That's kind of a hot take. I don't think we're actually past it. Down year-ish for Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. Down a couple of years. But anyway, the point is the ability to make something happen when you need it. I'll go back to that 4th down play again. The one that he converted to Elikiah Manor was awesome. But the one that didn't count because his knee was down by just a fraction, that's the kind of play that very, very, very few quarterbacks can make. And that's the thing that Cam Ward gives you that a guy like Tyler Shough just doesn't. I think Shuck's going to run your offense. He can scramble a bit. He can make some plays with his feet, but he doesn't have that like special sizzle that takes players from good, average to good quarterbacks to the potential to be great, elite quarterbacks. And I'm not saying Cam Ward is a great or elite quarterback. Not today. Not after the way that game ended. Not after the 4th quarter he played, where the Titans, down by 1 point, come out and have a chance to go kick a field goal to take the lead, and they go 3 and out, a 2-yard handoff to Tajay Spears, which was a very ill-advised play call in my opinion. Pollard was running so well in this game. If Pollard has that ball, that might be 2nd and 4. Instead, it's 2nd and 8. Cam Ward throws a sideline pass that's nearly intercepted and then has to throw it away on 3rd down. Like, that's not a great drive there for Cam Ward, but, you know, we're looking at everything here. We're trying to build momentum, and I think despite being outplayed by Tyler Shough in this game, there's no question who I'm taking going forward for their careers.
Yeah, there's no exactly my point, right? I think the upside is so clearly higher with Cam Ward than it is with Tyler Shough. I want to answer this question by Woodrin, and then I want to get to another one that I saw about 10 minutes ago,
yes.
Just to clarify for Ed. But Woodrin, probably not. No, to be honest with you, I don't think the Titans are going to be able to get. I mean, you know this, but if you watch the Jets play, there could be 6 weeks left in the season, and the Jets wouldn't win another game. Like, they're going to lose next week. They're going to finish with 3 wins. The strength of schedule, I mean, I don't know how up-to-date Tankathon is, but they've got the Titans at 0.576 and the Jets at 0.552. That's significant enough that
with
the Titans
1
are
week
not
left.
the Titans are not going to get ahead of the Jets in the strength of schedule. So the most likely scenario is the Titans are going to pick at 4th or 5th overall. We'll know for sure next Sunday, but they're not going to get ahead of the Jets. And that does hurt the trade back option. It does.
Yes, but if the Eagles beat the Bills, who are currently playing right now, the Bills will be locked. Well, the Bills could go to the 6 or 7. Actually, okay. The Bills will be locked into a wild card. They could still move up and down the 5, 6, 7 seeding range. There's a world where the Bills don't care about winning next week. But hey, look, he said, is there a scenario? There is a scenario. It's extremely unlikely.
Down if you're watching Stranger Things. The Jets lost 42 to something. Like,
to a team that was trying. My point is, look, we're recording this. We're live right now. There's 35 seconds left in the first quarter, and the Bills are losing 7-0. If they lose this game, they will be locked into a wild card. Okay, actually, they will be locked into a wild card.
I think you and I could suit up for the Bills next week, and they'd still beat the Jets. If you and I got a couple special team snaps, and
it's a 0.1% chance that the Jets beat the Bills next week, and the Titans lose to the Jags, which that's not a 0.1%. That could easily. I mean, the Jags are a great team, but it's very, very, very unlikely that Tennessee is able to get in front of the Jets. But it's not impossible.
We'll see what happens next week. Ed, quickly, we'll address this one. We've been discussing OC candidates for pretty much every head coaching profile we've done, but especially the defensive ones. We did it for Anthony Campanile. We did it for Anthony Weaver. Tuesday and Wednesday this week, we will be doing head coaching profiles for 4 candidates total, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday. And for pretty much every single one of them, especially the ones that you might know nothing about, we are going to be talking OC candidates for those. So make sure you tune in to Tuesday and Wednesday's episode. And remember, tomorrow, you got to tune in tomorrow too, because it's going to be a Cam Ward film breakdown based on the All-22 that we saw today.
Weirder things have happened than the Jets beating the Bills next week, Justin. Just keep in mind.
Look, last year, the Patriots beat the Bills, right, in the final week, and gifted the Titans the number 1 pick. Aaron Glenn today, by the way, after the game said, this is the first time I've questioned our effort this season. Like, the Jets are so checked out. It's unbelievable. So I'd be pretty surprised.
I'm pretty into Jeremy Bernard, by the way, the Alabama receiver, as like a second round option. I also love David Boston as a top of the second round option. He could be a 20s, picked in the 20s receiver, Denzel Boston out of Washington. But did I say something else?
I think you said David Boston, but that's
David
okay.
Boston. That gets stuck in my head.
I really like the Alabama receiver. He's so smart. His understanding of spacing, zone coverage, he knows how to get open. He's great with the yards after catch. I will say, I think there's a reason he's probably an early second. I think the athletic upside is a little bit capped. I don't think he's going to be an elite wide receiver. Like, I don't see that outcome for him. But I think he's going to be a really good, smart, QB-friendly wide receiver, like a number 2 to a dominant, especially, one who doesn't draw all the attention because he's opposite a good receiver. Like, he's going to take advantage of those situations. I don't see the ceiling with him, but I do really, really like him.
I got to address this comment. Beyond trust in his wide receiver, I think Cam doesn't trust his own accuracy to just throw the ball in contested spots. Either that or he's unwilling to risk the ball. Did you watch the game today? I mean, James Prochet, was it James Prochet? Did James have one? Whatever. Aaron Manor had at least 3 that were like extremely contested tight catches. He throws the ball low when a defender is closing, which makes it a difficult catch for the receiver, but the right ball placement so that the defender can't get it. I don't think even the Mason Kinsey pass was a perfect throw. 44 yards in the air, by the way, right into his stomach while the defender was right there on his hip, in his hip pocket. I'm not sure I agree with this comment. I think Ward might have too much trust in his arm, if anything. Like, he might think that his arm talent can overcome situations where the defenders are just too athletic and too good to actually do that. So I disagree that. Okay, thank you. Nearly intercepted to Prochet. But yeah, my point stands. It's not, I mean, that goes against the point. He tried it. He tried to get the ball into a contested situation.
Absolutely. He put that ball in a contested situation. For me, a couple other positives coming out of this game. You talked about Van Jefferson being one catch away from reaching a huge bonus incentive, but Jeffrey Simmons officially reaches double-digit sacks. I mean, I think it's the first time in his career, right? I think 8.5.
You think? Of course it's the first time in his career. It's all he talked about all offseason was his goal. Right. Who's his uncle, the former NFL player?
Jason Hatcher? Is it Jason Hatcher?
Jason Hatcher, who always gives him crap for not having a double-digit sack season. Shut your mouth, Jason Hatcher. You can't do it no more. Jeffrey Simmons has got you. Jeffrey Simmons has been the best defensive tackle in the NFL this season, and the people who watch film on Twitter and everywhere else, they agree. He's got to be an All-Pro. We got to start the push, Justin. Jeffrey Simmons for first-team All-Pro, because if there's not enough noise about it, it might not happen because of who the Titans are. But he more than deserves it.
Yeah, he deserves to be All-Pro. I'm glad he got to the Pro Bowl, no doubt about it. Shout out to Jeffrey Simmons for the first double-digit sack season in his career. Chimere Dike sets the rookie record for the most all-purpose yards. I don't think he's that far off the all-time record. Someone brought it to my attention about a week ago. It's Darren Sproles who has it because he was so good on kick returns that year. I think he's within striking distance of potential. You could look it up right now. I think I could see you're on the keyboard. I think he's within the realm of possibility to do it next week. I want to address this comment here because you're always going to suck me in when we talk about the NFL draft. Why not take Tate or Tyson at number 4? Why not SF Lowry _2? Why not? I mean, look, quarterbacks are going 1-2. Everything else is a crapshoot in this upcoming class. It really is. It's Arvell Reese, who's a linebacker who's going to convert to pass rusher. It's Reuben Bain, who's got T-Rex arms when rushing the passer. It's a running back. It's a safety. We don't know what's going to happen past the quarterbacks, in my opinion. I do think quarterbacks go 1-2 still. We don't know what happens past that. You never know. Maybe they do go with a wide receiver at 4. I love Jordan Tyson. It's such a shame that he's got the injury history that he does. But I really like Carnell Tate as well. Ideally, you trade back to like number 7 or 8, get a couple more picks, or even one more pick, and you probably still get Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson at 7 or 8 overall. We won't take Love at 4, says Theory FPS here. I agree. I can't imagine that the Titans end up taking Jeremiah Love at number 4. It's a little early. Thanks for looking out for I listen back to SF. Thanks for looking out for the comment. Listen to you guys every single day. have been for years, and you're my favorite pod. Keep it up. Love you guys. We love you too. SF Laurie _2. Thank you so much for your commitment. We understand that doing 5 pods a week is a lot, so we appreciate you tuning into every single one.
Tyson and his injuries. Look, if it's in my draft board, Jordan Tyson's not on it, because if you have 2 great receivers and you have 0 team needs and you happen to be picking that high, which is not anybody, that's not going to happen. Maybe the Rams, but probably not. Maybe you take a chance on Tyson and you think if he stays healthy, we have the best receiving core and potentially the best offense in football. But if he gets hurt, we're okay because we still have good, reliable weapons we can count on. The Titans are not in that situation. The Titans, and especially the way Mike Borgonzi attacked free agency this past year, you cannot risk that your first pick, especially as high as 4 overall, or maybe that's, they end up in the top 6 somewhere. You can't risk that guy just Caleb Farley's his career, right? Like, you can't risk that. So to me, Jordan Tyson is off the Titans board. That doesn't mean he's actually off their board. I'm not reporting that. I'm just saying I wouldn't take him. Carnell Tate does not do hardly anything after the catch. He doesn't give you a yak. He'll put his head down and run forward, but he usually gets tackled by the first or second guy to touch him.
This comment, though. I don't think he's beyond slow. I don't see like a slow receiver on tape. I think he's got good speed for his size. I think it's acceptable within reason. Like, I think he creates separation. He's a long strider. He's a deep catch threat. He's made several big time plays down the field this year. Like, I'll put it this way. I'm way more concerned about Tyson's injury history than I am about Tate's speed or ability to create separation.
And this comment from Titanic3962, Borgonzi wants high character and available guys, I think. Tate will be more valuable to him based off what he's shown so far. I agree. And Tate comes from a winning program that's probably, we're recording this on December 28th, so we don't know what's going to happen in the college football playoff, but my money would be on Ohio State to go win it all. And Cardinal Tate's going to be a big part of that. Now, obviously, you have to weigh how much being next to a guy like Jeremiah Smith, and last year, Jeremiah Smith last year too. And JSN was next to Marvin Harrison Jr. And all these guys in the Ohio State pipeline have played next to great receivers before and gone on to be wide receiver ones on their own teams. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, JSN, like all these guys keep playing with other great receivers, and then they get to the league, and they're still the best receiver on their team. Maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. is a TBD. I'm not sure what's going on there. But Carnell Tate, like, I have a lot of faith that Carnell Tate could be a very high-end wide receiver too. And he could potentially grow into a wide receiver 1 if the route running savviness is enough to offset where he doesn't have that elite level of athleticism. But I think if you're looking at like benchmarks for prospects, like just because you draft the fastest or twitchiest guy in the draft, that doesn't mean you're drafting the best receiver. In fact, that is rarely the case where the fastest, twitchiest guy ends up being the best football player. Carnell Tate, to me, far exceeds that baseline threshold that you need to be a successful receiver. Even if he's not going to run a 4.3 or whatever, he's probably going to run like a 4.55, 4.6 range, and that's perfectly acceptable to me.
Yeah, I'm going to address a couple comments here if you don't matter.
Yeah.
That's one of them. But if you guys are a coach, Titans' job looks better after that game. Enrique, I think this has been the continuation of what we've seen the last couple of weeks. I think the Titans' job has looked the same, just as good over these last couple of weeks. I really do. So, cap space, high draft pick, Cam Ward, city of Nashville, new stadium. I just rounded off 5 things that this Titans job has going for it this coming cycle. Don't let anyone tell you that it's not a pretty good job. Rapid fire here. Avant grudge. Why did he draft Winston then? I don't think it's the same. Kevin Winston partially tore an ACL in the 3rd round, 82nd overall. Jordan Tyson has missed roughly 40% of his college football career games. It's been hamstring injuries, I believe an elbow, a knee. Nothing catastrophic, but just things that have sidelined him for multiple weeks at a time, I believe.
Didn't he tear his ACL at Colorado, and that's why he transferred to Arizona?
In 2022, I think.
So it's in his history, but it's not just like with Winston. It was one bad injury, and he played almost every snap.
With Tyson, it's been so many different things that keep happening with him. Hopkins ran a 4.57. Yang, you're one of my favorites every week. I think I see it. I think he creates separation on tape, no problem. I love the guy, the catch percentage for the metrics. Like, I have no doubt that he is one hell of a guy. And then finally to get here, because I shouldn't have taken so long, the super sticker, SF Lowry. I think is this the biggest tip we've ever received? It's at least tied for the biggest super chat tip we've ever received. $19.99 from SF Lowry _2. We cannot thank you enough. As we say remember when Mike Vrabel said, I'm coaching to the detriment of my family, and everyone got on him? Graver and I do this pod to the detriment of our families. It's not bringing in as much time as we commit to it. All kidding aside, we appreciate
as much time as we commit. Oh, I get what you're saying.
Not bringing in you know what I meant. It's not bringing in as much revenue as the time we commit to it. So the super chat tips, we appreciate them so much. Thank you so much, SF Lowry _2. Any comments, questions you have, you let us know. Winston tore his ACL. The question here you just put up, that was a partially torn ACL theory. It's very different than a torn ACL. It's a partially...
Wait.
Sorry. Yeah, take this back because he's confused.
Theory is asking about why Winston's not playing right now. Winston's on IR with a hamstring injury. As a draft prospect at Penn State, he tore his ACL in like week 3 or something, but it was, like you said, partially torn. So nothing to worry about. And
we brought it up because the comment had said, why did he draft Winston then in relation to you don't think he'll draft Tyson because of injuries? He drafted Winston, and we were pointing out how it's very different. Winston was coming off a partially torn ACL at Penn State, whereas Tyson's had a lengthy history of recurring injuries. I cannot believe it. We've got another $20 super tip chat here from College Boy. I hope you're having fun at college. -XS7EL. That's a mouthful if I've ever seen it. New to the show, but I have been listening for multiple seasons now. Really appreciate the breakdowns. College Boy, 5 episodes a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a live stream after every game on Sunday. Graver and I are sad that next Sunday is the final live stream of the season of a game, but we have been discussing going live once a week to make sure that you guys can still make it to the live streams. Graver and I are going to try to figure out a consistent day and time that we could do that every week and hope that it also works for the majority of our audience. We thank you so much, College Boy. Tomorrow, we will have a Cam Ward All-22 breakdown. We're doing a bunch of coaching previews, coaching cycle previews Tuesday and Wednesday for the Titans. We will be back Thursday with a finale episode, a week 18 preview finale. And then, of course, we will be here next Sunday as well for a Titans-Jags Week 18 live stream. Titanic here. Can I answer this question here? What the offseason schedule will look like? We haven't fully planned it out, but what we will tell you for sure is that the offseason might be our favorite time of the year. Every time there is a sliver of head coaching news, the Titans have requested an interview with candidate X. Graver and I are going to cover it. Whether we go live when it happens, whether we do an episode because requests come in fast and furious and 3 of them come in within 15 minutes, so we do one episode covering all 3 requests, we are going to crush the offseason content. Last year, if you guys weren't here, when the Titans signed big guys in free agency or 2 offseasons ago or last offseason, we went live every single time. Lloyd Cushenberry, the L'Jarius Sneed trade, Tony Pollard. So
Cody Barton.
Did we do a Cody Barton live one? We might have. I'm not sure.
I think so. Maybe not. I don't remember.
Dan Moore, we definitely did as well. So the coaching cycle, we are going to cover so darn closely. Free agency. And then if you follow me at all, you would know I'm a big draft guy. I've been employed full-time by the Draft Network for 4 years. I interviewed 200 I showed you Kevin Winston Jr.'s phone, Kevin Austin's phone number live on this stream when Graver said he didn't know who that Saints receiver was. I cover the draft like it's my religion. Draft, coaching cycle, free agency. Graver and I will be on it. This show is not going away during the offseason, rest assured.
I'm going to be very surprised. There's comments in here about George Pickens. The Titans should go sign him. I'm just going to be very surprised if George Pickens isn't extended in Dallas or maybe even franchise tagged. They're not going to let him go. Great receivers like that don't hit the market. It's just a thing. You're not going to get a guy like that. The top of the market this free agency is probably going to be like an Alec Pierce level guy, which is fine. You want to take this question from Iron Grids, Justin?
I do. I do think Pollard has complicated this conversation a little bit with his late season production. He's gone over 1,000 yards again. I know that's a low benchmark, but it's still kind of the one we use. He's definitely given them something to think about. Maybe it's not surefire, but as of today, December 28th, I still lean yes, in all honesty. The free agency crop of running backs is shaping up to be half decent. We'll see who actually reaches free agency, but a Breece Hall, a Tyler Algier, a Rico Dowdle, a Kenneth Walker III, there are some good backs on expiring contracts. And then the draft is not great, but I look at a Jadarian Price, who I have fallen in love with, like Jeremiah Love's backup. He is a speedy, explosive, dynamic home run hitter. Jonah Coleman at Washington really excites me as well. Obviously, Jeremiah Love. I don't think the Titans take him, but if they trade down to 10, 11, and he's still there, they could do worse. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Tony Pollard. The conversation has gotten a bit more complicated than it was 5 weeks ago with the way Pollard's been producing lately, but I still lean they take that $7.2 million and probably cut him. Go ahead, Graver. I'll handle this while you fix that. Which washed 30-year-old receiver do you think? You know what, John? There's not a lot of exciting wide receivers in this upcoming free agency class, but if they sign anyone, I don't think it's going to be a washed 30-year-old. The three names that I keep thinking of are Alec Pierce in Indianapolis. He's had a big season. He's creating explosive plays. I don't know that Indy lets him leave, but Alex Pierce is one that comes to mind. The other two that I think have a more realistic chance of maybe reaching free agency is Romeo Doubs out there in Green Bay. He made some big plays on primetime yesterday. I really like him. I also really like Rashid Shaheed out in Seattle. They acquired him from New Orleans at the trade deadline. I think he's one that's really interesting. So I go Romeo Doubs, Rashid Shaheed, and then I look at a guy as well so Romeo Doubs, Alec Pierce, Rashid Shaheed. Those are the three that excite me most. Juwan Jennings, a couple of you just mentioned Juwan Jennings in the comments. I'm pretty sure San Francisco signed them to an extension. Did they not? I'm almost positive. I'm going to look it up right now. I remember seeing that during the offseason. I literally have it up right now. Juwan Jennings did sign an extension, it looks like. Oh, no. Sorry. You guys are correct. This is the final year of Juwan Jennings' contract in San Francisco. It's a void year this year. So good call. I've been so focused on Doubs, Shaheed, and Alec Pierce. I didn't realize that Jennings was within the realm of possibility. I still think I would look at Doubs before Jennings, in all honesty. I mean, maybe that's crazy of me, but Jennings is right up there, certainly. Maybe my number two. I think Alec Pierce stays in Indianapolis. And then with the explosive plays that Shaheed is making on special teams for the Seahawks, I imagine they try to keep him in Seattle as well.
I totally agree. I think, look, the bottom line is if you want a dynamic, go-to, playmaking wide receiver on your football team, there are only two ways to acquire them, and that is through the draft or through the trade market. Free agent receivers, the biggest recent free agent receiver contract besides Calvin Ridley that I can remember are guys like Christian Kirk, who absolutely did not work out for Jacksonville and is now a fifth string player in Houston. Or I'll go all the way back to Kenny Golladay, who I think was that 2019 or something, who signs a massive free agency deal and is a total bust. The players who are getting paid that much money in free agency hardly ever live up to the hype or the status that they're getting paid. The only way to get these guys is you trade for an A.J. Brown, that hurts, a George Pickens, a Tyreek Hill, or you draft these guys. Usually in the first two rounds, sometimes you can find guys later on who can make a big impact. But if you want a true dynamic playmaker who teams have to scheme around coverage and take away and open other things up in your offense. Like, you got to just draft them. And, like Chris Olave was a first-round pick. I wouldn't say Chris Olave is even like a top...
Was he a first-round pick?
Wasn't he like the 15th pick? I'm pretty sure he was like 12th or 15th pick in the draft.
Oh, I might be. Yes, I'm misremembering. God, I'm old. I'm remembering the other Ohio State receiver, New Orleans, took
11th.
once upon a time.
He's the 11th overall pick. So look, and Chris Olave is not like a game changer necessarily,
He's a good
but
player. Oh, man.
he's a great player. And that's what you like. That's probably where Cardinal Tate ends up, he could be a 1,000-yard guy who can maybe score 7 to 10 touchdowns a season. Is he going to be Jamar Chase? No. Is there a Jamar Chase in this draft class? Probably not, unless Jordan Tyson stays healthy and is amazing. But there are playmakers. There's Cardinal Tate. There's Mekhi Lemon. There's these guys that are going to come in and impact your offense. And the only way to have a full team or a full offense with all these playmakers is to just keep drafting them, because the Titans are not in a position to trade for one right now. They need their picks, and there's nobody they can sign.
I think this comment by SF Lowry _2, who, by the way, came through with the incredible super chat tip earlier. Thank you so much once again. Hits the nail on the head. It's not a top-heavy draft. That's why I think the Titans have to spend this offseason when it comes to the wide receiver position. They've got to focus on building out a nice, well-rounded room. I don't know that they're going to find a bona fide number one, but you add a wide receiver 2-ish in Carnell Tate, like SF Lowry said, and even if he's your wide receiver 1, but you surround him with a Romeo Doubs or a Jawan Jennings, for example, and a Shimere Dike and Alec Iomanner, and you've got a really good wide receiver room, one that I have full confidence in Cam Ward's ability to maximize. The Titans have to sign a free agent wide receiver, and they have to draft one either with their first-round pick or their second-round pick. No doubt about it. To me, that's the route they have to take at wide receiver, and I do think that there is a route to them being able to build a really nice, well-rounded room that might lack a high-end elite player, but just have like 3 to 4 real high-quality options that a sophomore Cam Ward with a good head coach is going to be able to elevate that room and make it look really good. I'm not there yet, Kate Talib. I'm pronouncing that correctly.
KT Alive.
KT Alive. Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was Kate Talib or KT Alive. I think Tate's ceiling is a bit higher than Jawan Jennings. I think there's more athletic upside to Carnell Tate's game than there is to what we see from Jawan Jennings. I really do.
A better, I would say, coming out at least, a better separator, a better route runner, a better legitimate, potentially high-end receiver than Jawan Jennings, who's a great number 3 guy.
I don't know that I agree with this from Kenston either. I think Romeo Doubs is a higher ceiling, higher upside, a bit more athletic ability than Alec Iomanner. I mean, I appreciate Iomanner. He's been stringing together some good games lately after some rough patch in the middle of the year. But I think Doubs does a little bit more than Iomanner does. Do you agree with that, or are you with Kenston on this one?
No, I'm with you on this one. I agree. I think Doubs is just like a very QB-friendly receiver. He catches almost everything thrown his way, runs really good, snappy, twitchy routes to create huge amount. Like when Doubs creates separation, when he breaks off a route, it's not like he gets a little open. He like leaves the defenders running the wrong way 5 yards. There's things to his game. He's not an all-around great player. There's a reason that they have Christian Watson and that Christian Watson is their sort of de facto number 1 receiver. But Doubs is a very good player who can complement, I think, any wide receiver room and fulfill a certain skill set. We're getting pretty long here, Justin. We should wrap this up fairly soon. I'm going to close this by pitching you an idea. And this is just an idea. I literally just had this while we were talking. And when we think about it, maybe we'll do an episode on this in April. But this is the idea, Justin. How far would you be willing to trade down? Like, let's say Pittsburgh at 20 right now, if the draft was today. Pittsburgh's picking 20th. Pittsburgh wants to come up to number 4 to get their quarterback of the future. And maybe it's the second or third quarterback and take whatever. It's a hypothetical. We don't have to make it make total sense right at this moment. Would you trade down that far if it meant you get a 2027 first in return, along with That's a huge drop in the draft, right? We're not talking about trading from 1 to 4 or from 2 to 9. From 4 to 20 would cost you a lot of picks to come up. Is there a number that you feel like the Titans shouldn't go below this certain number? Because at 20, you can still get your potential cornerback 1. You could still get potentially, I don't know if he'll fall this far, Mekhi Lemon, or if Mekhi Lemon's not there anymore, potentially Denzel Boston or one of these other guys, KC Concepcion, who I really, really like out of Texas A&M. Hook 'em, but I still like KC Concepcion. Is there a place that you wouldn't, but the caveat is you get a first rounder, and it's to hopefully target Jeremiah Smith as your legitimate game-breaking wide receiver 1 next year. You get that wide receiver 2, who's going to be a wide receiver 1 as a rookie, but really better place as a wide receiver 2. Is there a place in the draft that you wouldn't trade down too far to?
There is, and I'll probably answer this question and we'll end the stream here. Maybe I'm taking your question too seriously, but you got 2 2027 firsts, your own and the Steelers. I don't think that puts you in position to draft Jeremiah Smith, right? So for me, I wouldn't trade that low because I think that takes you out of the running for Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Ruben Bain, David Bailey, Arvell Reese. Like, I think you're missing out on all of the top receivers and edges. And I'm not nearly as high on Denzel Boston as you are. Maybe we'll have that conversation at some point. It's too big of a jump. I think you got to stay with, Theory just read my mind. I was literally finishing my sentence. I think you got to stay in the top 12 because I think 12 is the sweet spot for like, I'm going to get one of the top 3 receivers, or I'm going to get Arvell Reese, or Ruben Bain, a David Bailey, or even a Kedrell Falk, the edge rusher out of Auburn, who a lot of people are high on. So, no, I'm not going down below 20. I think it's important that you stay there.
Hang on, wait. I need to clarify this. Titanic 3962. 20 is a big jump. I feel like I need more than just next year's first. I'm not talking about just next year's first. I'm saying you get next year's first and the package that comes with a 15-16 spot drop in the draft. So just to clarify that.
Right. And I knew you meant that. And so my answer doesn't change. I think it's too far to go. We'll end with this question here. I can't imagine the Jags would trade Brian Thomas Jr. within the division. I don't think they would trade him within the division.
Here's where I'm at on this question.
I could see him being moved. I think there's an underrated chance he's moved, but probably not to Tennessee.
If they don't like him and they're like, this guy's got an attitude problem or whatever, I'm not trying to speculate or say anything about Brian Thomas Jr., but if they don't like him in the building for whatever reason, they might be like, we can sabotage a division rival by trading him to Tennessee. But Mike Borgonzi, first of all, is not going to give up draft capital for a player who is not exceeding expectations in their current situation, unless he can buy really low, like a day 3 pick low. And that to me is way too, like the Jags would never sell Brian Thomas Jr. for a day 3 pick, even especially to a division rival. So I don't think there is somebody of that caliber that Mike Borgonzi is going to trade for because, number one, Mike Borgonzi is trying to build a high character locker room with guys who want to be great, who want to put in whatever it takes to be great. And I'm not saying, I don't know anything about Brian Thomas Jr., but I know that he went through a lull this season where he wasn't practicing much because he was injured, and how, like, is there toughness questions there? Not that, I mean, maybe he's really injured, but you want a guy that's going to be, that wants to be on the field every week, no matter how banged up they are. You want a guy that's going to be the one first in the building and bringing everyone along with them. If you're going to trade for somebody, it's going to be somebody like that. And on top of that, Borgonzi has stated multiple times he wants to accumulate as many picks as possible and be a draft, develop, retain operation, not a trade for somebody else's guy who's turning out to be not maybe as good as they thought they were. That's not the path that they're taking to rebuild this team. So I would be beyond surprised. I would say there is a 0% chance the Titans trade for Brian Thomas Jr. And if I'm wrong about that, I'll eat crow. But that's where I don't think that that's happening at all. I don't think Borgonzi would be willing to trade the pick for him, especially if a team is wanting to get rid of this player, even if they do have Travis Hunter and just traded for and signed Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington's emerging. Like, even if that's why they want to get rid of Brian Thomas, because they're like, maybe we can turn this asset into something better, that is still not a good reason for me to trade for them. All right. That'll do it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this stream, and a special extra thank you to those of you who leave in the super chats and super stickers, those tips. We really appreciate what you guys are doing for us here as we try to bring you this content. Like Justin said, we'll be back tomorrow. We got a plan for the whole week. It's New Year's week. Are we going to do a New Year's resolution episode? Maybe on Thursday for New Year's Day as we preview the final game of the season, Titans at Jaguars. That's later in the week. We got coaching stuff coming up Tuesday and Wednesday. We're going to do a Cam Ward film breakdown tomorrow. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And as Theory FPS says, as soon as the stream actually officially ends, stick around for a few seconds, like a minute from now, and leave a comment, just an algorithm comment, or answer the question, what would you make the trade that I proposed a second ago? And then people will tune into the video, they'll see your comments, and they'll be like, whoa, when's that question? Oh, it's not till over an hour into the stream? Okay, I guess I'll stay and watch the whole thing. That's how you guys can help us out. We really appreciate you. Thanks to Sinkers Beverages. Hope you guys are going to Sinkers Beverages to get everything you need for your New Year's parties, and we'll be back tomorrow. So until then, I'll give you the final word, Justin Melo.
Y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.